Record.
We do have a quorum, so we
Okay,
can go
okay,
ahead.
let's start. Just because we have a lot to do today, which is our new January kickoff. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Sustainability Commission for January 20th, 2026. Can we have a roll call to order?
Yes. Commissioner Alexander.
Present.
Commissioner Barrett.
Present.
Commissioner Boyd is not currently with us. Commissioner Cohn.
Present.
Commissioner Dearda. Not with us. Commissioner Frick. He said he would be late about 30 minutes. And then Commissioner Rotner
Present.
and Commissioner Walker.
Present.
Perfect.
And Commissioner Boyd, I should be here.
Yes.
She may just be running late as well. Thank you that. Welcome, everyone. We have tonight Wayne Olson from the Economic Development Department, and I'm sorry, Sunline Transportation. I didn't catch your name.
Yeah, that's okay. Anna, Dan.
Anna Dan from Sunline Transit. So they will be doing presentations tonight. But first, we have the acceptance of the agenda. Did anyone have any questions or comments or move to approve?
To approve.
Do I have a second? Second. So minutes, our agenda has been approved. And so we're on to presentations with either Wayne or Sunline.
Wayne Olson.
Wayne. Thank you for coming.
So we invited Wayne Olson here to talk about our economic development strategic plan. This was presented to the City Council in November, and there are some tie-ins to sustainability, and so I've asked Wayne to kind of focus on that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Olson, who heads up our Office of Economic Development.
Thanks, Flynn. Commissioners and anybody else listening, are the general public here?
Yes, we have some general public.
Hello to the general public. My name is Wayne Olson. I'm the Chief Economic Development Officer for the City of Palm Springs. Thanks to Flynn and Benito for inviting me to talk a little bit about the Economic Development Strategic Framework. As Flynn mentioned, it's been a year-long effort and a few more months than a year. And we had the City Council approve the Economic Development Strategic Framework on November 24th in a special session. Flynn and Benito asked me to just kind of touch base with you all and talk a little bit briefly, very briefly, about how the plan intersects with sustainability. And I was expressing to Flynn that it's really a great exercise because there's a lot of overlap. So I'm not only looking forward to presenting, but I'm also looking forward to asking you for your help as we move forward. So I like to level set because not everybody knows what economic development is. But economic development at its basis is an exercise of business retention, expansion, and recruitment. And then we apply various policies and initiatives to help with those elements. So there was great demand for those services when I was invited to become the Chief Economic Development Officer in January of 2024. Those services were so in demand that Dean and I were quickly overwhelmed. I have two staff, me and Dean. And I also have a scheduler who's helping me out as well. It became quickly evident that we needed some sort of structure around which to address this demand, both from internal and external partners. And so we started to go down the path of developing this strategic framework, similar to a general plan, similar to a master plan of parks. This is exactly the same thing, but in economic development. I hired a group named Civil Economics out of West Hollywood. They have been with us for 14 months and developed this document, which is in paper format here, but is online on the Economic Development website if you want to refer to it. So I just thought I'd introduce some of the ideas of why are we doing this now. In addition to the demand for the services, you can see the list there. I won't read it all out, but there's a lot of issues facing the city that are possible inhibitions to economic growth into the future, and that's my primary job, is economic growth. You can see here already there are words that match with what you are doing here as sustainability, certainly climate and environmental pressures. We have actually two of our principles are heavily focused on sustainability, and I'll visit those in just a minute. Demographic transitions, this is something we've got a big aging population here, but very few young people. If you look at our demographic graph, we're very light on the left-hand side, which are the young people, and very heavy on the right-hand side, which are the older folks. Riverside County overall has sort of a bell curve. It's more natural. The issue with that is it means we don't have workers. And if we don't have workers, we've got to import them in from somewhere else, and guess how they get here? They drive, unless they take the bus. So this is actually a good segue into the presentation later. So you'll begin to see how economic development and the principles that we're proposing start to branch out into sustainability and other disciplines within the city very, very quickly. So I'm not going to read the vision, but again, the point of this is to show that words like climate resilient infrastructure, thriving alongside innovative clusters, sustainable prosperity, those are all the words that are contained in the vision of why we're developing the economic development strategic framework. So I thought that would be a good place to start, is to say, why are we doing this? So that is the vision that's proposed in the framework. I think that intersects with sustainable economic development or sustainability through many factors, but shared vision and modern innovation. You know, I've worked with Benito and LP prior to him, you know, on a number of ideas on how to be innovative in the city, sustainable growth, which is an evident one. Community well-being, livability is a big function of, you know, and I don't want to tell you what sustainability is about, but as I understand it, community well-being. Climate awareness certainly is on everybody's mind, and frankly, we're a step ahead of the curve, which is why we've identified that also as a potential growth area, and general livability. So I'll go through the principles. I wanted to share with you one highlight. I think I already covered it, but I wanted to make sure I had it. Oh, so I wanted to just mention some of the success, what's going to be required for successful implementation of this plan. One is institutional will. That means the internal capacity of our city and our commissions and our boards and everybody else that involves themselves with the city business. We have to get behind this plan. And this is an example of that ability to roll out. I was with the Arts Commission in, I think, November after the plan was passed, and this is my second commission to be presenting to. So institutional will is going to be important. Resource alignment, I think that's all about sustainability, right? Ensuring that we have efficient deployment of our resources. And then finally, and this one's always hard in public settings, is community tolerance for experimentation. What does that mean? You know, some of these policies and programs, particularly LP and I had discussed, were forward-thinking and sometimes hard to digest from a business perspective. And so I think it's important that we help endorse that in our community. So you can see the 5 principles here. I'm just going to give you quick overviews, and I've highlighted each of the initiatives. So the way the plan is structured is we have the vision, then we have principles, which are the big kind of concepts. We have initiatives that are more like goals if you've ever done strategic planning, and then actions, which are the tactical items. And there's 100-some plus actions, so I haven't listed them all here. But you'll see as we go through the plan how sustainability, I see sustainability, I think you'll agree with how they overlap. So in principle A, expand the city's economic development capacity, that's exactly what it says. Right now I have 2 staff members. You know, I'm going to have to look at leveraging other staff members, helping with some of these policies and initiatives. And in fact, in the plan, we have a column called lead entity, and that is blank right now. So one of the implementation strategies is to fill that lead entity. A lot of what we're talking about we may already be doing. I reviewed some of the climate action steps in the climate action plan. Long list of things you've already been doing, so you can teach me on what areas we can do that. But this is about developing the city's internal capacity so we can serve business more efficiently. So streamline city services and permitting processes, you all help with that in developing policies and frameworks for permits and applications. Benito, and you know, fantastic resource for picking up the phone and saying, hey, how can you help this company with X, Y, or Z? Then develop internal coordination mechanism and staffing. So again, this idea of developing our internal capacity. As you can see, there's a lot of purple highlighted in here, which is areas of overlap that I mentioned. So improve ongoing engagement with business community. That's a big one. You know, our business community, 86% of our business is small businesses. We have very few very large businesses. And so helping our small businesses work and function in our community is critical to our local economic success. Helping them translate some of the rules, for example, or the laws that come in every year from the state. Those are other elements that we can help with. Expand incentives. Again, there's a lot of incentives already in place with the utilities and with some of the sustainability incentives. I'd love to expand on this and also create a more formal program of people understanding what those are. This is a big one. Support and expand nighttime business opportunities. When we looked at, and by the way, the overarching goal of the plan is to build a year-round sustainable economy. We'll get to that in a minute, but our economy has based primarily on hospitality and tourism, which isn't a bad thing. It's a huge revenue, growth for our community. What we need to do is figure out a way to make our economy more year-round. So how can we employ people in the summer? How can we ensure that there's activities? This one is an example of that. Support and expand nighttime business opportunities. It's hot during the day in the summer. People want to naturally go out in the evening. If we can provide and expand those opportunities, that's going to help with that. Build business resilience through emergency preparedness mitigation. I have this one. We all felt the earthquake last night. At least I did. Fortunately, it was mild. But I asked our economic development team to put this in. I think sustainability could help with this as well. We got to be prepared. The unfortunate bombing event that occurred, I became acutely aware of what was needed from a small business perspective, all the way from who do I call to do X, Y, or Z to I need help with a state grant. So having a plan, an express plan, is something that, heat emergencies when we have brownouts or blackouts I dealt with, I could say at least 3 blackouts this summer on weekends when restaurants need their restaurants to be full. They lost their entire contents of the refrigerator. That's $10,000 or $15,000 for one refrigerator content. That's a big amount of money for a small business. So again, helping with mitigation measures there. Principle C, bolster existing industries. Just letting you all know, we're working and embarking on the Palm Springs Convention Center district. That's going to be both connectivity, so we can get more walkability between downtown and the convention center, and then also improvement of the facility itself, which is going to include all kinds of green initiatives that we can detail in a different meeting. And then promote this as a premier destination for business tourism. One of our elements that we're focusing on is green grid energy or green innovation. We have a lot of innovation around energy in our community. Fred figured out how to harness the wind. We're now looking at batteries down at the Salton Sea. There's a lot of ways we can talk about business tourism and coinciding with our activities here in our community. And again, you can probably find things in all of these initiatives. These were the ones that were sort of evident to me. D and E are probably the most overlap. You can read there what all of these are, but it doesn't mean D1 doesn't include it, but for sake of argument, this is about tech. This is about innovation funds. This is about financing mechanisms. We have financing. I'm forgetting the name of the financing program that helps support. It's escaping me, but it is a method by which you can add additional financing to your stack. So a lot of this happens both here in Benito's office and as well as my office. I'd like to point out D5, promote Palm Springs as an industry leader in desert climate and energy. You all are already solving some of the problems that the rest of the world's going to be facing in 10, 20, 30 years. So looking at that from an innovation perspective, what are the things you're doing here that lead, our worldwide leading, our country leading, where we can share that creativity? Health and wellness is another sector that we're looking at, and that I think has just natural compatibility with sustainability, with hiking, being outdoors, our environment. And then finally, principle E, all of these, I believe, are overlap with sustainability. And again, each of these has several action items that I won't go into detail on. But for example, E1, improve multimodal transportation. The first action item of that is do a multimodal survey to understand what we have, work with Sunline to see what we actually have and where are we lacking. So again, these all have several action items attached to them as well. I wanted to identify in these last few slides the next steps. And I will spare you from reading all of these, but as I did some research on the commission and sustainability and the work that you've all done, this is a list of just some of the things that you all have already done. Some of them are as old as 2015. You all have been thinking ahead on this. Sustainability has been thinking ahead on this. And almost every bullet in there has something to do with business or commercial interest. And so I think that is what's key here, is that the work you're doing, a lot of it, we just need to get out to the business community and help them understand that it's already happening or has happened. We can certainly talk about developing, more policy and more goals as we move forward under the plan. So I thought I'd just end with next steps. My suggested next steps, but I'd welcome comment from the commission, obviously. I have an economic development committee similar to this commission, so I report to that. It's currently chaired by Naomi Soto, the mayor, and Jeffrey Burns, council member. So I will be having a discussion with them this week on how they want to set their agenda, and we'll certainly look at ways sustainability can plug into that. So that's the first step for me, is get that committee reestablished. Then the next steps are to map and prioritize year 1 and 2. This is broken into 3 segments: short-term, midterm, and long-term. Short-term is 1 to 2, mid is 3 to 5 years, and long-term is 5 and beyond. We have 38 action items in the first 1 to 2 years. I can't implement 38 action items in the first 1 to 2 years. So I've mapped them, now we need to help prioritization. Help operationalize these actions. You all have been through the process of operationalizing ideas, and that's something that I think I could use help with. And then, of course, thinking about further down the road, the mid and longer term action items. And then, this is the start of, and I've always had good communication with Benito and with LP, and so continue to communicate regularly. So that's the bulk of the presentation. I'm happy to entertain discussion or answer any questions if I can.
Thanks.
It was a lot. It was quick and oversight. I do have copies of this online, so feel free to go ahead and browse through it. Happy to dig into any topics, but I'm really looking forward to finding ways in which this plan will collaborate with, the goals of the commission and working with the office and Flynn. So.
I'm going to take a look at that because I'm very impressed with the thoughtfulness about climate and how it's affecting our community. So, and as you're developing economic programs it really seems to be at the front. So I appreciate that. I don't have any questions per se, but does anyone have questions?
I'm also always happy to take input. If you're getting, information from businesses, feel free to reach out. Commissioner Rodner has Dean's card. Dean is my business liaison. He helps with all things City Hall. So if you have businesses or if you're business owners and you're struggling with a step in the city, just give us a call and we're happy to help.
Great.
So I just have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm in the northern part of the city, so that's a designated food desert.
Yes.
And they're putting in additional, now apartments, but Tramview Heights will be doing mixed housing and businesses.
Correct.
So hopefully that's part of your plan because it's going to grow in population and still a food desert. So somewhere along the line, we need to get a solution to that.
It is, and I've been working with Councilmember Garner on some solutions, shorter term solutions, and it does fit into the plan in many ways, primarily around access through multimodal transportation. Some cities have developed a specific bus that will take you from your home to the grocery store and back. That's not a route, it's an actual paid for. The other thing is to develop a grocery store itself. So, broad spectrum of solution opportunities, but absolutely it's part of this.
Yeah, because there are going to be quite a few homes.
There are. And College Park, I believe, is in planning stages as well.
Grandview Heights is.
Is it Tramview Heights? Is
Yeah,
that what we're calling
the
it?
specific plan is going to be called Tramview
Okay.
Heights.
Tramview Heights. I call it College Park, but now I know.
It's Tramview Heights, and then
Tramview Heights.
Maryland's going to have 1,100 homes.
Right.
And they're going now.
It's a lot of growth, and I know there's an opportunity for development that I've talked with a few folks as well. So looking forward to integrating that into your processes and working with the team. So pick up the phone and give me a call. Unfortunately, I have to step out. I've got a dinner obligation, but again, please feel free to email or give me a ring.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate that. I'm sure we'll have questions down the road.
Good, thanks so much. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next is Sunline Transit. Again, thank you for coming.
I also have a presentation. Maybe I could do a similar.
Yeah.
Switch into the hot seat.
Thank you so much. Right. All right, good evening, Chair Rodner and members of the commission. My name is Anna Dan. I'm an assistant transit planner with Sunline, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about Sunline Rides Reimagined, our initiative to reimagine the future of transit in the Valley. So here's just a quick overview about what I'll be covering today. I'll keep it pretty brief, but it's essentially just a bit of background about the project and why I'm bringing it forth to the commission tonight. So just a quick overview, if you are familiar with Sunline, we are a joint powers authority formed in 1977. Our members of the board include our 9 cities, as well as members of our incorporated areas of Riverside County. Sunline covers approximately 1,112 120 square miles of service area. And on the screen, you can see essentially our transit network map. We have about 9 local routes and 1 regional that connects from the valley all the way to Cal State San Bernardino in San Bernardino. So in terms of services that Sunline provides, we have I'd roughly narrow down to about 4 services. We have our fixed route bus, our paratransit, which is for our individuals who have more of a disability and can't ride our fixed route service. We have our commuter link, which is that connection from here all the way to Cal State San Bernardino. And we have our microtransit service, which is kind of an on-demand opportunity for people to get better connections to the fixed route bus if they don't have that in close proximity to them. What you can see on the map are the main routes that traverse through the city of Palm Springs. That includes the 1 West Valley, which takes you all the way to Palm Desert, the Route 2, which goes from Desert Hot Springs to Palm Springs and Cathedral City, and the 4, which is Palm Springs to Thousand Palms. And the map below that is essentially what our microtransit service, Sunride. So these are, if you're within that service area, you can call a Sunride vehicle to take you to either anywhere else in that, essentially in that geographic area, or to your nearest fixed route stop so you can board the bus and ride it to where you need to go. And in the last fiscal year, we served about 3 million passengers, and that's remained relatively steady, especially as we come back from COVID. So naturally, we want to keep that up and get people riding the bus. So a little bit about what Sunride Rides Reimagined is. If you haven't heard about it before, we hope that it'll catch your eye from that here on out. We're trying to do a little bit of a public outreach. So essentially, it's a comprehensive look at our system and our services. We are trying to redesign what transit looks like in the valley. Typically, a transit agency will take this network redesign and do it about every 5 to 10 years to make sure that it's relevant. The last one we did, it was before COVID, and since the pandemic, our ridership has changed, development patterns and community values are always changing in the Coachella Valley. And so it's about time that we take another look about where our buses run, how often, etc. And so with this study, we're just trying to ask, some pretty important questions of where and how often should transit run, what kind of services are appropriate for different locations, and etc. This plan is kind of a tiered approach similar to the economic development plan. We'll have changes that we can implement as soon as the first year, and other changes that will can be developed over time given limited resources, both financial and workforce in terms of our operators. So it spans about a 10-year plan. And so I came here to the commission today because I believe we have similar objectives. We very much value our environmental impact and getting people moving throughout the valley in a sustainable and efficient manner. And public transit is probably the best way to do that. I kind of pulled this from your climate action plan, and there might be more updated information that the commission has. But essentially, the best way to reduce VMTs and get people off the roads is through mass transit. And with this initiative, we're just trying to understand how we can make that happen. How can we incentivize transit and get people onto the bus? And so this is a year-long process. Right now, we're working with our consultant. We've done the groundwork, is essentially looking at our ridership data, understanding how we're performing now. And now we're in the thick of our community engagement. And so this is coming forth to the commission. One, to keep this on your radar. We think it's a pretty good environmental initiative. But also, you guys have a great network, and you're very knowledgeable about sustainability in the valley and your community. And we would love to engage with you in getting the word out about this project. So what exactly does community engagement look like? We host a series of different opportunities. We've done a focus group with some stakeholders, and now we're moving into a survey. I have copies of that survey, and I can pass that out, but it's primarily online, but it's also on paper. This survey is kind of a baseline, just trying to get to an understanding of what people value in transit, how do they use it currently, and what they'd like to see out of it in the future. So it's very groundwork, initial phases, and as we get more input over time, our consultant will start to develop what are network scenarios. So it's essentially like how our transit map could look like based off of input from the community and stakeholders such as yourself. So, the Route 1, runs about every 30 minutes. Ideally, it would run maybe about every 15, 20, so the bus comes more often so people don't have to wait a long time, especially out during the summer in the heat, etc. So these are just some of the small changes that we need to hear from the community and groups such as yourself so we know what to prioritize and what is of value. And so I wanted to come here today because I do have some resources. I passed around a flyer. Essentially, if you could share those within your network, or if you have communities that you think Sunline should reach out to directly and start to engage in, we'd love to hear from them. But first and foremost, we really need to get the word out. But there is a great plus is that the city of Palm Springs actually has the highest participation rate in our survey. So that's awesome to hear. They have great momentum, great interest, and we're really happy to see that. But of course, that doesn't mean we've heard from everybody, and there's always the opportunity to get more input. This survey is open until the end of February, and after that, once it closes, our consultant will kind of take that data, and that's when they'll start to develop more of those maps. And we'll then again engage with the community for them to decide how they're liking how the maps are progressing. And then over time, these iterations, the board will have input. I know Grace Garner is a member of our board, and so she'll be a part of essentially that decision-making body. And ultimately, we'll have a plan that will steer Sunline over the next 10 years about what transit can look like. So that does conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But we would love your support in yourselves taking the survey. That's why we have the QR code, and we also have a link there. And then, of course, please take this flyer with you. We greatly appreciate it. That's all from me.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone have questions?
I have 1,000,001 questions, but not that we need to bog this meeting down.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just in thinking of, are there, and there probably are, but with tying in CV Link with bus connections or, that intermodal, I think that's the right term, of tying in that new system that we have with the bus.
Yes. So right now, this project doesn't necessarily relate to direct connections to CV Link. There's certainly opportunities to explore that connection. If you get off CV Link, route planning is a big part of, this overall structure. So you can take your bike CV Link, get onto a Sunride vehicle. Sunride could then take you to a fixed route bus route stop. So this plan and this initiative doesn't necessarily look into that connection specifically, but that's definitely something that you could bring up, and then we could explore further with our consultant, especially if there's a big interest in it. Yes, going from bike to public transit is a huge highlight, and we'd love to facilitate those connections as best as possible. But that's, the direct connection to CV Link isn't necessarily being explored with this initiative.
Yeah, I like that connection of system to get people to the bus.
Yeah,
Since you have
absolutely.
such a huge map of
Service
area,
area,
service area, yeah. Great, thanks.
So I have a question that, in terms of the stops that are indicated, if folks are out there, are there covers for them, or is there a coordination that there's a stop and there's cover from the sun? For example, at Mizell, get a lot of seniors that get picked up there. There's shelter there, but it's solid. So as the sun moves around, I see them sitting out there and, really not good, no matter how old or young you are.
Yeah.
So maybe there should be some coordination to providing, I don't know how all the stops are, if there's suitable shade or not.
Yes, we do typically have a standard design for our bus stops, and so I've noticed that too, especially outside of the College of the Desert. I live in Palm Desert. I see like as the sun moves, people are having to stand behind the bus shelter in order to get shade. That's definitely something we can consider. Shade is going to be a huge factor when we talk about how this transit system is redesigned. But the exact design of the bus shelter isn't being explored. But it's something that we're always constantly considering outside of this initiative. How we determine a shelter usually depends on ridership. So if there's high ridership at that stop, a stop will get a shelter. But the design, so it can move with the direction of the sun,
Yeah.
that hasn't, I don't believe, outwardly been explored. But it's definitely something I could take note of and bring back to our operations team.
It shows how long it's been since I've rode it. I have ridden a bus here, but it's been a long time. Do you have now a way for people to use their phones and see when the bus is arriving?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
We already do that, okay.
Yes, we do have a app. It's called Transit app.
Right.
It's both a ticketing and a transit planning app-based service. So essentially, you can use that app, and if you know, like, if I'm gonna take the bus just like outside the stop outside of City Hall, and I know I want to go to Palm Desert, I can type in my destination, and it'll tell me the best route to take,
Right.
and when the bus is coming.
And is it accurate? Is it the schedule, or is it where the
Well-
bus actually is?
It's according to where the bus actually is, and naturally we want our buses to be to schedule, so they're gonna want to be as closely aligned as possible. But the app itself is gonna track the bus. So if
Because this why I'm thinking about seniors, and they need to get somewhere, and you don't want to be standing out in the sun for a long period of time, and all those sorts of
Yeah.
issues, so.
yeah, absolutely.
If
So
we
with
want
the
to get
app,
more seniors into them, then we need to have that ability. I never see people using it. I walk by a bus stop all the time. I never see anyone using it.
yeah,
So,
I know that's.
When I'm in San Francisco, I see people using it all the
All
time.
the time. I was just there. No, I know. It's a matter of education as well. It's not easy to use a new app like that, the interface and getting familiar with it. We do, that's so totally separate option, but we do like transit training. So we go out to communities and we teach people how to use our service and especially the app.
Right.
So that is an option. But yes, we do have an app. We're constantly working on the technology to make sure that the live tracking is accurate. But right now, that is probably the best option for you, available to know live when the next bus is coming. Yeah.
Yeah, and there needs to be some better way to get all this information out, since we don't have any.
Well, I'm assuming they have a website.
We do have a website. Yeah, absolutely. You can always visit our website to help you with your trip planning. And we're actually getting new technology on board of our buses. So as those systems are slowly being installed over time, we're always exploring new ways to, alert riders and just letting you know when the next bus is coming. A lot of services, like transit agencies, will have a text this number to know when the bus is coming. I'm pretty sure that our buses will be able to equip with that feature too.
Publicity about that.
Yeah.
And things like the news media that are now being used, like the Palm Springs Post or the Coachella Valley, whatever it is.
Reporter.
Well, there's a Reporter and there's another one, Express or something like that. I mean, because those are seen by more people than the Desert Sun, so.
Yes, and I know and I apologize, one of them did just post about Sunline Rides Reimagined, so if you're a frequent reader of them, you will have seen that we have their support in getting the word out about this initiative. So we're very excited to be working with the city of Palm Springs, with this commission, and hearing from your residents.
So just a suggestion, because I work with a lot of seniors and
Yeah.
I do a lot of computer sessions with seniors. They're not gonna figure out an app. If you have one-on-one or come in with a training session and say A, B, and C, we'll get you this from the app, because they're just not gonna go.
Yeah, that's understandable. And we do have that service. If you know of a group, you can reach out to Sunline and schedule what is called a travel training session. and they'll come in and give a little bit of educate them on how to ride the bus and how to read our paper version of our schedule. And so that's definitely an option.
I'll talk to folks at Mizell.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
If they-
We'll actually be reaching out to them to talk about this initiative, and I believe they've done travel training there before, but if not, that's absolutely.
It might
able
be
to
good
booked.
to revisit.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
We're both at Mizell fairly often. I think that is something so it's more visible at Mizell. I mean, the buses that are dropping people off are visible. Those are the paratransit, I guess. But how to use the bus system otherwise
Yeah,
is not very visible.
yeah.
So-
And,
And people love lunchtime because lunch is cheap. So that might be a good time.
okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
I
All
know
right,
that would be a good time, yes.
that's good to hear. All right, well, I'll definitely let our marketing team know. I know they handle that effort, and then we'll get ourselves out there.
Great.
All right. Thank you for your time, and again, we would appreciate, please contact me. I know I don't have my exact contact information, but I'm happy to write it down, and then I'll pass it around.
Yeah, you can actually give it to Benito,
There we
and
go.
Benito can
Nice.
send it to the team.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank
Appreciate your time.
Thank
And
you.
everyone will fill out their surveys.
I'm gonna leave a few paper copies just in case, and in the back, but if not, you're welcome to. You know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That was good. Very insightful. Okay, now on to public comments. And this is the time for members of the public to address the commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. The commission values your comments, but it cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Benito, was there anyone online who wanted to speak? So there was okay. Well, that was nice and easy. So chair's comments, I just have a couple things. So I had the opportunity to take part in the interviews for the new director. We had some good folks. And Flynn will update us on that, but I think we're moving in the right direction, and I appreciate the city moving so quickly to get someone on board. We have Parks and Rec Foundation that had a listening session this week, which I attended. Kind of interesting to be able to communicate that as they develop, the Parks and Recs are going to be developing, I think, down the road a master plan. So they're having listening sessions and tying in sustainability issues. It's in the early stages, so if you get a chance to attend one of those meetings, I'm planning on trying to participate in that because I think parks are good and need our help. Also, one last thing, Commissioner Barrett and I are members of the DCE Advisory Committee, and they are currently working on an energy efficiency upgrade for businesses. They're looking to, and I think it's through the state, acquiring $300,000 to help small businesses. It's in the early stages, but kind of interesting program that they're working on. And I think down the road, there's also plans to help residential units, but the first program is rolling out hopefully within a year, I think, and $100,000 a year. So that's good to help energy efficient the small business community. And an introduction, I may be stepping out, but I didn't have this on my list, is they have a new staff person at Benito wanted to do a quick introduction. Sure. This is probably out of order, but go right ahead.
Well, everybody say hello to the wonderful Sabina.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Probably don't have to talk to myself.
So I'm a Civic Spark Fellow. I'm here for 8 months and born and raised in San Bernardino. I moved over here to Palm Springs. I live in the city. And I'm very grateful to be living here and like very excited to like learn the culture and learn just, yeah, more folks in general. And I studied at the University of Redlands. I double majored in public policy, specifically environmental policy, and my other major was economics. And so with Wayne being here, it's like, okay, economic development. I'm curious. So yeah, it's been, let's see, it's 2026. It's almost been almost 3 years since I've graduated. And so this is just a humongous opportunity, like in my career path. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys better.
Great.
Can you tell us your name again, please?
Yeah, Savina,
Sabina.
but I also go by Sabi,
Yeah.
if that's easier.
That was it. I didn't catch the name. And since could you send it to us at some point or something?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
On to the meeting minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to the director's report.
Been working on it.
I did a wink if you didn't see it.
So, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, continuing on the theme of staffing, our new climate action specialist, Thomas Crowley, will begin here on February the 2nd. So we'll give Benito and Sabina some additional firepower, if you will. As the chair has already mentioned, we had our panel interviews of the candidates for the sustainability director position. We narrowed it down to 3 finalists. The city manager is completing the second round of interviews for those finalists sometime this week. And so we expect that an offer will probably go out within the next couple of weeks. So we're trying to move as quickly as possible as we can on this. I will note that I have a personal interest in getting a new director on board as quickly as possible. So we're very excited by the applicants that we had and hope to have someone here soon. With that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to old business. So the 3 items that I kind of had listed here, I think the energy efficiency upgrade ordinance is still on hold. I just left it in old business. I don't know if that will kind of reignite once the director's in.
Yes, once we have a new director in place, I'd like to review how far we've gotten with that and then steps forward.
Yeah. And then the GHG reports, I thought I'd just cover that in my climate action, kind of the discussions we had at the last meeting. And then the last item was Desert Water Agency. I'm just not sure if we just need to wait on that or wait
We
till we're...
are waiting. I was informed that they're going to through a transition period as well, so they're looking for new staff, so that's why we have not heard back.
Okay. So maybe we just hold off until late spring or in the fall?
I would wait, just give them some time.
Okay.
They're going through the same thing we were, so I understand.
Okay, so we'll just say reorg. Okay. So on to new business. We had review and approval of meeting minutes. And Benito sent out included some meeting minutes that were a little backlogged with the meeting minute approval.
Is that what happened?
And so I think we need,
Did you send something out?
Yes, they were attached in the email, and they were also attached online as well. Were they not?
yeah, they were.
They were correct?
Probably
Yes.
didn't recognize them.
It covers 3 years.
Yeah, I was not here in my defense.
No, they-
attachments
yeah.
to it.
I didn't get it.
Is there,
They downloaded.
Huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Oh,
Yeah. Benito, if you might send it to Commissioner Boyd.
yeah, of course.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, just so she has a chance to review.
Thank you.
Yes, and it goes all the way back to 2023.
I got
I had a lot of work.
That's like a flight reading. You maybe saw it and didn't recognize it.
Well, so what I think we need to do is have the commissioners review, and then we vote to approve those meeting minutes, is how I understand what we need to do, so we can get them on record. So I'm hoping, with the exception of Commissioner Boyd, I don't know how if she has a minute, we can maybe go back after, if you can look at it while they're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
But I think everyone needs to review those, and if there's any questions on those, we need to vote to approve them. So I'm just wondering if everyone did look at them.
I didn't get to all of it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to suggest that we table that till the next meeting and bring it up so everyone has time to review them. I think everybody needs to review them and look at them, and if they have any questions. I think it's fairly straightforward, but it's just a kind of a record keeping. But
Yeah, and
I think
generally,
we need to do our due diligence to look at
it's,
those.
most of them, so like for Commissioner Boyd, it would just go back to the day she started, since she was technically not here for the minutes prior. So if you're new, you only go as far back as to where you were. The rest of them would just be accepted by the commission, and you were not here to actually be there to vote or anything on it.
So what if we don't have photographic memory of those years?
Well, that's what the minutes are for. So we go back to when you see your name on the agenda.
My name was on the first agenda. I thought this is.
Really?
But
Oh,
I don't
wow.
remember who, it named a chair of the commission who, I didn't recognize the name. I don't remember. Foster.
Who was it?
Foster was the chair?
Yeah. I didn't recognize it either.
Those are if it's a type, it could be a typo. So
Yeah,
I
some
think
of the
those are
minutes were typed by
clarifications that-
somebody else.
So maybe, no, this.
I think it may
won't
be
say
Forster.
it.
Andrew Forster.
Yeah, it could have been Forrester.
Yeah, there was a chair. Andrew Forrester was the chair
Okay.
for a very, very,
Short
like,
time.
2 or 3 meetings. So that could have been it.
That's why.
But I think once everybody's read them, and if they have any questions, we address those, we can give them to Benito, make the corrections, and then approve them.
Yeah. Okay, well, then we can just highlight those things that we don't
Yeah.
know. and say,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else remember it?
Okay.
Okay.
We can move that. I mean, it's been so long. I think one more meeting will. And then catch up, and then we'll have, be caught up on that. So thank you for working on that. So the next item for new business is commissioner reappointments. It was brought up to our attention that the city is starting the process, I believe in March, for reapplication for commissioner reappointments. I believe the majority of the commissioners are, our terms expire with the exception of Commissioner Barrett in June.
How long are
I-
the terms?
3 years.
Because I just started last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to get clarification is on, I looked at what's on the website, our.
Sorry, I started 2024.
Time flies when you're having fun. Just to confirm that, but those, I know that I'm coming up with a little cohort that started. So if you're interested, you can re-up, but we need to reapply. So if you are interested in reapplying, then I think in March, and we can get the information from, is it Cassandra?
Yes.
Wow, I remembered her name. We can get all that information.
And
So-
I think it's a 2-month period for.
Yeah, it's March through May or
May.
something like that, or April.
April.
Yeah. So, yeah, just letting you know. And then I think if you know of anyone who might be interested in sustainability, I'm not sure what the limits are. They did limit the number of commissioners, but yeah, if anyone's interested, get them to apply.
Isn't there, is there a limit on how many times you can be a commissioner?
Twice.
I thought there was.
Yes, you can serve 2 consecutive terms.
Yeah, so I
So
think
a
I'm.
total of
I
6
think I'm
years.
done. I'm sure.
you may be termed out.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah,
done in
we're-
2027.
Say one more time.
You're done in 2027? You have one more year.
I'll be much younger then. Okay.
Yes. Oh, you're aging backwards then. Yeah, so with the exception of Commissioner Barrett, I believe we're all up for.
I didn't know how mine had been, because I had started in the middle of the year, I didn't know if I was,
Yeah, you were the last man standing. You were the last person standing
May-
before we, with COVID, I think there was.
Yeah, I'm 20, should be next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I based that off of
Yeah.
the website, which, you know. is
Commissioner
perfect.
Barrett, you may have filled an unexpired term.
I think I
Yeah.
did, yeah.
So,
So anyway, we just, it came up in discussion, so I just wanted to let everyone know, so there's not last minute running around kind of stuff. Okay, and we'll get more information on that. So the next item was the leaf blower letter review and approval, which the ad hoc subcommittee on leaf blowers, which is Commissioner Cohen and Commissioner Frick, have completed. And thank you for doing that. So we need to review it as a commission and then vote to move forward on that letter to submit. So I wanted to see if anyone had any comments. I have a few comments. Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, it took me a minute to realize what the purpose of the letter was, and it seems to be mostly focused on the issues of getting your landscapers to use leaf blowers. It's not as much about you using leaf blowers.
Correct.
So I thought that there might be a few minor twitches to it. I mean, one would be just to, let me find my note, the subject line itself about stopping using, let me find my note, hold on.
Okay, while you're doing that,
Yeah, go ahead.
is there anyone else that had comments? I have just a couple of comments.
Oh, well, go ahead with yours.
And I'll share my notes. They're not like horribly, but, and I think I mentioned to Commissioner Frick when we met last, is adding, helping the owners who are reaching out to you, share the link for the actual ordinance so they can have access, if someone's interested in sharing, understanding what the ordinance actually says. Also sharing a link to, I believe we still have money set aside for help purchase.
Yeah, there still is money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So having a link there, so I think one of the goals that I feel is good about this letter, or can be good, is having the owners share this knowledge with their landscapers to say, hey, you know, this is an opportunity for you to do this, and do you know that there's money set aside to help you? And I think there's, in your letter, you mentioned state or South Coast Air Quality Management. So there's money there to help them, so that kind of helps the conversation, I think. And then the only other thing that I had is, and I think this goes not part of the letter, but do we know what regionally is happening with other cities? And just a thought that popped in my head as I was looking at this is, how do we, is there a way to connect with CBAG or other cities to see what they're doing? Because I'm assuming that some of these landscapers may not just work in Palm Springs. So are other cities trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because Kathy Flynn and I met with code compliance. That's one of the things that came out of our meeting, is there's no other cities that have a ban on gas powered leaf blowers except for Palm
The only
Springs.
one.
So we want to kind of expand that to other cities in the
It's kind
valley.
of the sideline, because
Yeah.
okay. And then, It's really sad when you can't read your own writing.
I presume Desert Sun allows links in their letters and stuff. I don't really read their letters that often, but in the letter section or the Valley Voice, they allow links. I'll just check with them. I'm just gonna, we'll propose it,
Sure.
but, you know, they might not, you know, allow.
Or
it. So,
reference,
Just reference
check
it.
city
yeah,
website.
just check the website or,
Should.
yeah.
And then another thing, and I don't know if it's that critical, but the person that works on our yard has electric leaf blowers is a lot of times they need to be charged. So telling the neighbors to work with them to give them opportunities to charge. Like we have an outlet and he
That's another
comes
thing
and he
that's
always
come up in
needs,
our-
so it's like, I don't know how you encourage that, but say, hey owners, you can be fine, but also you need to work with them. I don't know if that's something we can mold into.
Yeah, we could
the
probably
letter.
put a sentence in the letter.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like,
Just
Yeah.
saying
like the
that.
flexibility and having the it's a conversation starter.
We've
is
definitely discussed
How do you have that
that.
conversation between the landscapers and the owners?
You've anticipated everything we've talked about in our committees over the last year.
I feel like I've been there. You may have brought it up at some point.
Exactly, you've been the fly on the wall.
Okay, that's all I had.
Sounds great.
My point, one of the point was in the subject, it says it's time to stop using gas-powered leaf blowers. That's good, but I think it might help because we're actually focusing here more on getting your landscapers to stop using them. And so instead of saying using gas-powered leaf blowers, it's saying use of gas-powered leaf blowers. Because when you say using, the person who's reading the newspaper who owns the house will say, I don't use them. I don't know what my landscapers use. So I mean, if you just take away that sort of using and make it more like use of, so that they need to look for it. And then I think it would help, if it's not too late, to try to squash down some of the background so that it more immediately gets to the main point. You're responsible for your landscapers. If it gets to that point fairly quickly in what they're reading. So they're not reading,
Yeah, that's a good
they're not
point.
reading all that past history. I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
say, we did it this year, we did it in this year, we reinvigorated it in this year, and it's in place. And if you want more history, go here. And it's important to understand that you're responsible for what your hired, I started to say hired help, that's wrong.
Yeah, we get what you mean. We know what you mean.
Don't use that language.
Service providers.
Service providers, yeah.
Which your contractors are using.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know how we vote on this until we have a final letter.
Yeah. What I might recommend is that the subcommittee make revisions to the letter based on the comments that they've heard this evening. You have two options. One, you can have us route it to the commissioners via email for review and approval, if you will, based on action here this evening, or if you'd prefer, you can continue this until next month and approve the letter at next month's meeting. So a couple of different ways to go about that.
Well,
I
I
would
like the
recommend-
idea of routing it around.
Yeah.
I like that
That
idea
moves
too.
quicker.
So we can do it faster.
Okay.
We've been writing this for what, like 6 months now? It's been hanging around for like 6 months.
Getting people to hear it before they start thinking about going home.
Yeah, everything before April.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I would advocate that other one, other process.
Okay, so Commissioner Frick, if you'd like to make those revisions
yeah, I'll
to
make
the
the
letter.
changes and I'll
You
send
can-
it to
yeah.
Benito.
Yeah,
and
send
then
that to
will get-
Benito and
okay.
me, and then we'll route that
Okay.
to all of the commission to do one final last review of the letter. And then based on that, we'll forward it to the Desert Sun.
Okay, great.
Can we just, because we provided feedback, once they make the changes, can they just get approval from you? And
I'd recommend that all of the commissioners see it one last time, just to make sure that your comments were captured correctly.
Kind of troublemaker you are.
But I think also it's not the same.
Kathy and I are taking over the world secretly.
So-
This is the first of our plan.
That was another thing. Yeah, that's fine. Great. Thank you for that. Thanks for working on that so diligently. Okay. Reports. We have the Standing Subcommittee on Waste Reduction, which is Commissioner Boyd.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So we met 2 weeks ago, anyway, doesn't matter. And just sort of, I think, sort of reinvigorating the year. I think sort of taking the opportunity and chance, given the shift in the internal staff at the commission and working with Benito, to sort of, at the same time, sort of repurpose and look at what our goals and objectives are and kind of why we originally formed, and maybe think about a strategy with some really clear goals for 2026 and maybe going into the future. So, Benito, thank you. Just created a shared folder for us, so I will, we'll create a document. I think between now and the next meeting, we're just going to sort of brainstorm some ideas around what we'd like to see happen in terms of the subcommittee, and then we'll sort of pick it back up and sort of, once the new director comes in, then sort of use it as an opportunity to all sort of redefine the direction going forward. So stay tuned for that. And then I know the team of one until had a lot of events going on. So thank you to Benito for, I know you, in addition to running this, you also about 7 things going on, so appreciate that. We are switching to the Palm Springs disposal services coming quarterly. We're going to trial it out, and so we've timed it so that they're coming the month before their quarterly newsletter goes out, just so we can sort of hear what they're doing, see if we need to coordinate any communication, and then they'll sort of go. So we'll trial that out for a while. And yeah, waste bin best practices. Essentially, Chair Rotner sort of brought up the issue that, we're definitely trying to foster communication and cross-collaboration with the various ad hoc committees and subcommittees and the various other commissions. And so there's the Poison Free Palm Springs ad hoc subcommittee. And so just sort of raised the idea that we want to pick back up, that we want to make sure that we're cross-collaborating with PSDS and others around the best practices for waste bin. So those are kind of highlights. I don't know if Chair Rotner or...
I would only add that we, or I, encouraged Palm Springs Disposal to be more visible about their electric garbage truck.
Yeah.
Because it does exist and is in operation, and I'm not sure that people know that.
No, and it was funny because I wanted to find out a little bit more about it as I was writing up these notes, and I went to search for it, and there's
Zilch.
even Gemini and ChatGPT didn't know anything about it. So, yes, they definitely could.
Yeah, because they're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, so it's a great segue into the climate action.
Yeah. And, sorry, one last thing. I saw Benito on KESQ. Did an amazing job last Friday, so well done with your TV presence.
Signing autographs after the meeting, by the way.
Yeah.
$5. Sorry. Did you have a question? Sorry.
Well, I think Chair Rotner added something. There's a cross-pollination with the pesticides group, and we wanted to also talk to PSDS about dumpster control and lid securing, just to put that on your radar.
Yeah, that will be a discussion for the next meeting.
Yeah, but that's just something I wanted to just.
Is it dumpster control?
Yeah, dumpster control / lid securing.
So I think we've discussed that before.
Yeah.
Outside in the Scour meetings. PSDS does provide locking bins, but I think it's the encouragement, how do we encourage HOAs and restaurants to utilize those tools? So we have those tools available. So it's kind of, I think that's one of the action plans of going forward.
Yeah, I
for
just
the
wanted to
future.
flag
Yeah,
as we
no,
had
appreciate
talked about
that.
it.
Yeah,
It's,
thank you.
you know,
Yeah.
pesticides route too, so, yeah.
It's also the practice of residents of overloading the bins, their own bins.
Yeah. that's-
And the crows are very happy about that, but
Yeah.
it makes a huge mess in the
Yeah.
whole, down your whole street block.
Great, we can add that to the
Yeah.
list as well.
Yeah.
Very true, especially after Christmas.
Thanksgiving.
Every week on our block.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Sorry, I feel like I'm blocking.
No, you're fine.
You're like, I prefer it that way. Okay, so on to the Climate Action Subcommittee. Thank you, Commissioner Barrett and Commissioner Cohen, for reviewing. We reviewed, not in super detail, because it's a very lengthy document, but the CBAG greenhouse gas emissions document, which is very chunky, so to speak. It is a valley-wide, or it's a regional, actually. It's not just the valley, so it includes a large swath of area. But I think general comments, which I think is kind of an ongoing as we, or as the city has staff on board to address it. But we addressed some concerns and questions about the data that was provided by the CBAG report, just asking that there's further clarification there. But there's a couple areas, as our Sunline pulled out of our existing climate action plan, is that transportation, I think it was building, I didn't write these down, but there are 3 areas that are big greenhouse gas emitters, and they still are. Whether the data is right or wrong, it's something that we still need to work on, and projects like what Sunline's doing to increase transit options are all part of that work. But I think as we move forward, it's developing kind of a executive summary down the road for City Council to look at, number one, what we've done to celebrate the wins. I mean, Wayne kind of highlighted some of the things, successes that we've done since we've initiated this climate action plan, and just moving forward on acknowledging that, but also knowing that there's more work to be done. So that's kind of the gist of our last meeting. Unless anyone wants to add anything else, but I think, so going forward is we need a director.
But in the meanwhile, we'll
Yeah.
have a conversation with CBAG.
Yeah, so it's, we want to help the new director have as much information as possible as well. So the turnover, or the time to get up to speed is less, easier. So there's an express lane, which has transit bus and link to CB, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I drone on. So, moving on to the ad hoc subcommittees, we had mentioned doing these quarterly. But I wanted to, if anyone has a ad hoc that they want to kind of touch base on, the one that I think is Active Transportation Group, because we had our first meeting. If we want to just kind of generally summarize that meeting, I thought it was a good meeting. So, did you?
appointed Commissioner Frick as
Yeah.
chair of that.
I don't know how this happened.
We're all
I
looking
remember
at you.
being in a commission meeting a couple of months ago, and here we are.
Christmas, you're totally overwhelmed with.
You're the one with the
Sorry to
helmet.
throw
Yeah,
you
exactly.
under the
I have
transit
the
bus.
half-broken
but-
helmets that
But you have a very good,
nominated myself.
you have a very good vice chair who will
Yeah.
be more than happy to assist you.
Yeah, I think we, and I can just summarize really quick just to help. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus like that, but I think we threw out a lot of discussion, like starter information, concerns that we had about access, incorporating. It was great to see city staff from engineering participating in this meeting and making sure that as things happen with roads and projects, a new bridge or whatever it may be, that the alternative transportation work is not I think making sure that it's included in the discussion and the work when stuff happens, and upgrading access points with CV Link, and there's Flynn brought in a couple of different, again, plans that are engineering brought up. There's pedestrian plans, there's master plans there's a lot of stuff that's in the works. And I think with the active transportation, those plans that are in place are going to be brought more to the attention of the public. I know that there was some concern about funding, but it looks like there's potential for funding to keep things moving with updating plans and implementing some of this stuff. It's kind of a slow roll, as you know. There's some federal funding that's been not provided, but it's
been awarded?
allocated. Yeah, awarded is the correct word, but it's
We haven't
not in the
received
bank.
the check
Yeah,
yet.
Yeah,
so
that's the
it's
thing.
all these things that
And that's
are.
for the consultants to update the plan. right?
Correct.
Right. So
So
that's
there's-
our main goal, is to provide feedback for the updating this plan once the consultant comes on board and
As
puts
well
it
as,
together.
yeah.
I thought it was a good meeting. I don't know if you two want to add any other things. We can, Commissioner.
I know there's a lot of homework, there are a lot of attachments
Yeah,
to read.
Sorry.
So we're gonna be doing what you guys have done a little bit, reviewing the old pedestrian plan and climate action plan, and trying to combine them into one overarching plan that addresses all of the active transportation. So that's our main homework, right? Yep.
That's it. That's it. We'll also have a presentation from CVAG at our next subcommittee meeting, talking about community connections to CV Link, and the work that they're doing there. Now that we have the majority of it completed here in Palm Springs, the next part is getting people to CV Link. And so we'll be
Yeah, the
excited to
connections.
learn more about the project that they're working on there.
Kathy?
Did you still want me to participate as a pedestrian? I don't now know if you have too many people already.
There's just three. You,
Okay,
Commissioner Frick,
Yeah.
and myself.
okay,
And it's entirely up to you. I think
Yeah.
you would provide a good voice, so.
okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Just wanted to confirm.
great. No, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that, were there any of the other ad hocs, just throwing it out there, any highlights anyone wanted to bring up, bird strikes or?
Yeah, the pesticides, since we had our first meeting, I just wanted to go over a few things that we identified in the pesticides meeting. One of it was that cross-pollination with PDSD, and the reason why we focused on that is for pest control. And one of the main things we learned we had Malibu, Yeah, it was actually Malibu. It was
Yeah,
Malibu Earth-Friendly Policy, so we reviewed that, and one of their most important points was that you prevent pests from becoming pests first. And that's why the securing the lids and, really making sure trash is secure so pests can't get into it is a real important part of that. So what we're doing in that committee right now, the subcommittee, is we're researching what the city is currently using for its pest control, so we can kind of get a handle on what is being done and what alternatives we can recommend. So that's one of the first things we're going to be doing. And they also have a program through, I didn't know if that was through Malibu Earth Friendly Commission or if it was their vendor, but they offer a program where people can be trained on alternative methods of.
there's another group that's
Yeah, that
not
was
part of
another
the
group,
Malibu
right,
who's
yeah.
offering training.
Yeah, so we're thinking about maybe a city employee can maybe do that training and be part of that. So that's one thing we discussed as an action item. And then one of the most important things they talked about is educational outreach to the community on what alternatives can be used besides using pesticides and bait boxes, which are what are normally used for pest control. So those are kind of like the main points that we identified in that meeting.
Yeah, some good presentations.
Yeah.
Lots of more learning.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of research for us right now.
Yes, Commissioner Barrett.
Along those lines, the parks primarily use contractors for their maintenance. And I don't know how much those contractors are involved in pest control issues. They may well be. I think it would be interesting to.
Yeah, we have to just research and
more
find
about
out.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, because we can talk about what the city is using, well, the city's not using. It's the contractor who's using it. And I think that's an important boundary to cross. And a difficult one.
We're going to dig in and find out.
Hopefully our departments know what their contractors are
Yeah,
using.
they should know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's arranging those. Yeah, it's on our to-do.
You know, that, well, I'll mention it later.
Okay. So with that, should we move? Just deleting this little section that I always miss. Sorry. Commissioner comments and February agenda items. So
Really quick, I want to interject, I want to clarify for the leaf blower letter, review and approval. You guys are not going to approve it or until you make changes till February, correct?
Yeah, no, I'm going to make the changes.
I
that's
was,
in-
just because I was going over our Brown Act, I can't spread that email with the letter and make any changes because it'll violate the Brown Act. It's called a serial meeting, so I can't distribute it to everyone from A to B if B sends it to somebody else. It'll, serial meeting, it'll Brown Act.
There's a way that we can go about that, Benito.
Yeah, so
where
I'm
we
going to email Cassie just to verify, so if it's not approved, we may have to wait till February. It's just a heads up.
I'll chat with you afterwards
Okay.
about how we go
But
about
I still
doing
send it to the two of you. then.
Yes.
Yes, you can still send it to us,
I'll make the changes
yes.
and send it to you. Okay.
thank you for double checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yes, thank you for checking. Okay. Where were we? Commissioner comments and February agenda items. So we have 2 minutes, provided future agenda items or input on other commission-related interests. Shall we start with Commissioner Frick?
You mean new agenda items?
Yeah, so you have requests for future agenda items or input on other commission-related items of interest.
Okay, so I don't know if this will be of any interest to the commission, but, and maybe there's nothing to be done in this space, I'm not sure, but noise pollution in general. It seems like a lot of complaints to the city are about noise and, it's either short-term vacation rentals, traffic, gas-powered leaf blowers, and noise pollution is a health issue It's been proven that noise pollution causes hypertension and health issues. And so I just wonder if noise pollution could be something that we address in some way. I don't know what it would be, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Sure, I guess. I mean, sure.
So I wonder if there's I like that, and I feel like I wonder if there's a way to combine it with the light, revive the light pollution, and like make it like a built environmental pollution
Yeah, you know,
discussion, kind of, you know, like light and
Because it is a
noise
big
and-
deal to the community, because you hear people complaining about airplanes here right now. And so there's neighborhoods that complain about, airplanes flying over their neighborhood with noise. And so a lot of complaints are noise related in the
Sure.
city.
I mean, I think we should maybe add this as a discussion item for the next meeting and have more time to.
So it's of interest enough to do it as a discussion.
It sounds like it. So just in terms of time, I think we need to allocate some time for discussion and maybe formulate a mission statement of what we want to. There's a lot of noise. So how do we attack it?
It's a lot.
There's noise and a lot of light. I feel like there's a probably.
So what I will do is we have a planning meeting with staff and just formulate a plan of attack on how we, if we wanted to another ad hoc or just think about how we want to attack that.
Hey, I'll do a fifth one.
Yeah.
You gonna share it?
Yeah.
Hey, I
All
can.
right.
I'll do a fifth
So,
one. I'm going for it this
Be
year.
busy.
So more on that, I guess.
I think you need to define exactly what noise pollution is, exactly
Right.
what kinds of noise you're talking about.
Well, and
Like the
what's-
military planes flew over last night. I call that a noise problem. I don't know how you correct that, but
Yeah.
that clearly was
Yeah, I
noise.
think some things are correctable and some things aren't, right?
Yeah.
That's why we need to
So
get
we
it all
have, so I think,
defined.
but I think it's worth kind of like a.
Yeah, that's why I said let's
Looking into it.
define it, and then what things we can change, we can try to change.
I'm happy to
Yay.
want.
Okay, great. Commissioner Boyd?
Nothing additional from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrett?
I have come back to it before, and I'll come back to it again. I think we should talk more about the EPPP, Environmental Preferable Purchasing Policy,
Oh,
from a
yeah.
long ways back and what's happening with it. And actually, what's his name, who was sitting here, much of what he said.
Wayne?
Wayne, right, much of what he said kept taking me back to, there is the EPPP, which is an effort to try to influence what gets bought and used around by the city and could be expanded to go further.
Okay.
So that's something we just have on an agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Walker?
Attended Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network seminar, and when I spoke to them, they kind of indicated that City of Palm Springs is a little bit resistant for them to come and do some community events. Though that event was really helpful, and they want to go to individual HOAs and communities, and they're looking for city support. So we can educate our community on how to prepare for emergencies or what to do. And I don't know if we want to have a presentation from them as a commission we can learn, or do we want to make a connection to any other department so that can be done? We've had them with 1PS several times, well, more than once. Because the emergency preparedness folks have been regular presenters at our organization, and that's reaches about 80 people or 100 people. So it's not that we haven't done those kinds of things in some settings.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know that this is part of the sustainability. That's fire life safety. I think, working with Denise Goolsby. There's that Engage website. I don't know if there's someone with the city, an assistant city manager.
Yeah, actually, there
I don't know.
is within the fire department,
Yeah.
emergency services specialist, Danny DeSelms, and he might be a good point of contact in terms of getting this information out to the community.
I'll do that.
I think it's important, but I don't know
He's
that
very
it's us
eager.
that would be,
Very thorough.
yeah.
And he has all kinds
Yeah.
of props and things to have, pass out and that sort of thing.
Commissioner Cohen, thank you for that. Nothing? I do not have anything.
I don't have anything. I just want to thank Benito for his cleanup project.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, thank you for going.
It was quite an experience. And I think next time we need to concentrate on the corridor on Indian Canyon,
Oh, yeah.
because my husband and I were picking up 60-inch flat screen TVs that have been thrown out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which we picked up almost, we were 2 ounces off from a ton of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Trash picked up that day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Why didn't you just
Trash
lean
picked up
on the?
in 2 hours.
The only thing I
Scary that
want to add is no more interviews with reporters.
Oh, yes.
was-
I will agree with that.
Okay, with that, I'd like to call for adjournment at this meeting. Next meeting is on February 17th, 2026 at 5:30. Do I hear a call for adjourning this meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.